All right, so things are starting to cool off in the market. We're seeing a lot of volatility in stocks, especially with the small caps, but also with large companies like Nvidia. So we're going to be going over that today. Am I scared? No, not at all. So today on the portfolio, we are down $425. We were down about a grand yesterday, but it's whatever. I have most of my position in cash, so I'm just looking to slowly buy in, continue to dollar cost average. So not really worried. Something very surprising though is the move with Palantir today. I'm not as surprised with Rocket Lab because of how volatile these stocks have been. So 7% move isn't really surprising for me. But for Palantir, after it's been increasing so much, it's still up 9% today. So why is that the case today? Well, they've announced that they're moving over from the New York Stock Exchange to the Nasdaq. So that means that they can now join the Nasdaq and be eligible to join their index. So now more funds will have to buy Palantir. So it's just a very positive thing overall for them. So yeah. So let's take a look at our stocks today. VIX is up huge. So up 20% today. Not surprising because of how volatile markets have been. And it could go up. It could go up even more. So we'll see. Nasdaq has been hit 2.5% today. It's probably going to cool off. We don't know if there's going to be more downside. We shall see. And the leader in this overall downward move today, because of their market cap, because of their significance to the market currently, Nvidia. So they are down 4% today. And it looks like they found a top over here. And they could have some more room to fall. We shall see. But their earnings are coming up next week, which will be super important because right now, most of the big companies have already reported their earnings. Lots of small caps, lots of large caps have reported their earnings. So Nvidia is one of the last ones to do so. As we can see over here, we have Walmart, Lowe's, all before, Target, Neo, and then we finally have Nvidia and Snowflake. So Nvidia is going to be on Wednesday, November 20th in the afternoon after the market is closed. Very important one to watch. We will see how they do. So this is definitely a stock we will cover. So looking at over at CNN's Fear and Greed Index, we are now away from greed. We have come down significantly down to neutral. So we could see a sustained move downwards into fear because we have been rallying so much. And the thing about the market is everybody was so worried going into August, going into September, like, oh, stocks are going to crash. We're going to have lots of election worries. Nothing's going to be certain. And look what happened in October and November. Stocks just kept rising. So this is a normal move for the market to cool off. So I think we basically had an early Santa rally. Will we see more moves to the upside in December? We don't know. But right now, the market just needs to chill, kind of find its balance, and continue as is. So looking at the market, overall in the S&P 500, it's mostly red. We have just a few little shining spots here and there. We have Disney over here, 3% up on this huge red day. All of streaming is basically down. Palantir over here is the unicorn. They're just doing their own thing, joining the Nasdaq, doing what they do. So I can't even imagine how much they would be up today if the whole market was green or just flat. They'd probably have like a 12-15% move today just from all that. So this is a website I use to see how the market valuation is doing. They use a combination of PE ratios, price to sales ratios, price to book, price free cash flow. So combining all of this, they're able to show whether it's overvalued. And currently, in relation with everything down here, it is overvalued. And that's okay because oftentimes it does remain overvalued. And we can see that it stays overvalued for quite a long time, but it's always possible for pullbacks when fundamentals are just not caught up with the share price. So over here, we're obviously just talking about the S&P 500. So we could see market pullbacks in the near term. I wouldn't be surprised about that because of how well stocks have been doing. So just something to keep in mind. So looking over at CME Group, we do have the predictions for rate cuts this December 18th, which is 1 month from now. This specific date has been very volatile because we've just been waiting for Jerome Powell to give statements on whether he's going to cut or not. Well, he told us recently, a day ago, that there's no need to rush another rate cut, and he will continue to observe the market and see how inflation does in this next couple of months. So currently, the chance of no rate cuts has increased significantly. Earlier, it was much lower, but now it's closer to a 50-50 of whether they're going to cut 25 basis points or just keep at the same rate. So obviously talking long-term here, we know that Trump is very pro lowering interest rates. So we're going to see a very monumental clash between Jerome Powell and Donald Trump getting what he wants when he's in office. So during 2025 is going to be very crucial. We're going to see these two different ideologies clash, and it's still going to be very hard to predict how interest rates will decrease. So looking at the numbers here for January 29, 2025, it's predicted that we're going to see a 0.25 or 0.5 decrease from where we currently are right now. So this is obviously a few days after Trump takes office. So it may take some time for Donald Trump to push his agenda of lowering interest rates, and we'll just have to see what happens. But looking forward to a year from today, rates are predicted to be around 3.5 to 4.25. So if rates stay around the 4% range, then that means that we're not going to see much decrease at all. This could be a good sign because that means the economy is strong, but it could also be bad for stocks because of the decreased potential to access capital. So looking at Truflation, they have their inflation numbers that they've calculated. They believe that inflation bottomed at 1% in September and is now steadily on the rise. So this could definitely eat into the narrative that rates are going to come down significantly in 2025. Especially if it does keep increasing. So looking at consumer confidence, it's definitely at a good place. It's not in a horrible place that it was back down here or down here, but it's definitely not extremely optimistic as it was back here as well. If you go on the street and ask an average individual how they feel about the economy, it's generally really pessimistic. They feel that prices have increased out of control and their purchasing power has decreased substantially. So we can see an obvious disconnect between equity prices and the average consumer. And we have to keep that in mind because the Fed isn't just worried about equity prices. They're not just worried about a person's retirement account. They're worried about everything. So looking at small business optimism, we can see that it found a bottom in 2023 and 2024, early 2024, and now is starting to make a small move to the upside. Small business optimism isn't just good for your local mom and pop shop. It's good for large companies as well because they do business with small businesses. So in order to gauge the health of the economy and gauge how your stocks are going to do, it's very important to keep an eye out on small business optimism as well as consumer confidence, because so many of the stocks that you buy are going to be heavily dependent on these factors. As these factors improve, so will your stock prices. So I will continue to keep an eye on my stocks and see if there's any good opportunities to buy. Currently, I feel like ASTS is starting to get to a price where I will consider adding more into. Under $20 is great entry price for me personally, and I will continue to bring this up to a higher position size. So overall, I'm not very worried about any of the short-term moves that these stocks are doing. I'm still very much in line with my personal risk tolerance, and I believe stocks will move even more next week, depending on how earnings goes for Nvidia, as well as Walmart, Target, Lowe's. These are all very, very vital companies to the stock market as a whole, and they help us gauge the health of the economy. So I will be watching these very closely, and I'll be making videos on these. If you guys like my content, if you learned anything new today, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.